Hello all, thanks for joining the PHLpreK year-end review training for fiscal year 2022. This session is for centers. I'm Carrie Lee, I'm the contracts manager for the PHLpreK intermediary. I have here with me Ken Perry, our accounting manager for PHLpreK. We're both going to be tag teaming this presentation. And then we also have Joy Weems, our provider services manager on. She may chime in as well. So to go ahead and get started, please have your phones and microphones muted. You can type any questions in the question box and we'll be addressing those along the way. The presentation will be recorded and the slides and the recording will be included in the weekly newsletter. So our agenda today, we'll give an overview of year-end reporting. We'll do a demo of the budget versus actuals template, and then talk about next steps. So first, an overview of the year-end reporting. So PHMC collects end-of-year expense reports for all providers with $299,000 or less in FY22 annual PHLpreK revenue, and those are those providers that are not selected for the 10% desk review sample. This year-end review of expenditures includes reviewing and collecting supporting documentation and records to really ensure that invoices, budget projections, and actual expenditures align. And the period of review is going to be from July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. What you're going to need for the year-end review you're going to need to complete the budget versus actuals expense report template. This was sent to you in your notification. Just make sure it's the right template that you're using. This one would be for centers. And if you don't have the right template, you'd see up at the top in that heading, it might say, if it's the family ones, it would say FCC. And then if it says that, please email us at the PHLpreK inbox to get the right template. What you'll also need for your year-end review is your total FY22 PHLpreK budget amount. This you can find in your PHLpreK contract. You can see right here is a redacted contract. Your award will be in section 3 of your contract, so please take a look there. You also want to include any amendments that you got over the year, so make sure to include that total amendment budget amount. You'll also need your general ledger to complete all the tabs in the budget versus actual expense report. And I'll throw it over to Ken here to say a little bit more about that.
Yeah, hi everybody. The thing that is very, very crucial here is that people or organizations are being very detailed in their general ledger preparation. Please make sure that you have very detailed descriptions as to what every line in your general ledger represents. If you're paying an electric bill, say something like electric bill for this program for the period covering X date to Y date, because that's going to be very, very important in the event that you need any other financial review and or audits. And when we're tracking things back for propriety, this allows us to clearly and quickly determine that the costs that are listed in the report do in fact tie and are properly stated in your financial statements. That's all for now.
Okay. So instructions for the budget versus actual template that we'll get into, you'll see in just a minute. Some overall instructions: you want to complete the summary tab and all individual tabs in the Excel template. Please don't enter anything where there's yellow highlighting. Those cells will auto-populate from the tabs. And if you have a variance that's over or under 10%, you're going to need to provide justification. And please be specific. Some good examples are like your landlord raised the rent, or you were under-enrolled for a portion of the year, so not all funds were expended. A bad example is just saying something vague like it was due to COVID.
Can I throw in there?
Sure.
One of the things that we tried to do with the form this year was to make it a lot easier for people to fill things in and a lot harder to make mistakes and the like. This is another reason why your general ledger should tie in. You should be able to take the qualifying expenses and put them in the tabs. As Carrie said, you can't type anything in the places that are highlighted in yellow. We locked them out so for that very reason. Your primary work will be in the tabs, and the only things you will be listing on the summary sheet will be the information from your budget, from your contract.
Great. Okay. So for that summary tab, you're only going to enter these items: your site name, your total budget amount, number of PHLpreK slots, your approved annual budget line items, and then comments on the various if it's over or under 10%. And this will make a little more sense when we go through the demo.
One other thing, so people, so we know we're not losing people yet. Could you just like put okay in the chat right now so we see that you're understanding this? And if not, just put your question in and we'll answer it now. We getting feedback there? Because I'm not seeing it.
I'm not seeing any right now. So if you, the chat button is on the bottom. Oh, yep, I do see some chats coming in. We're getting a lot of okays, all good. Yep.
Excellent.
I think we're good. Okay. Let's see, let's move on. So that was the summary tab. Now for the individual tabs, you're gonna see these columns. The first column is gonna be the total paid from July through June. So there you're gonna enter the total amount you paid an employee or vendor in that program year. You're also gonna see the percent charge to PHLpreK. So that's gonna determine what percentage the employee worked for PHLpreK, or the percentage of the expenditure to charge to the program. And then from those two columns, the total PHLpreK amount is gonna auto-calculate. And then Ken, if you wanna touch on this one.
Instructions on budget versus actual. Allocation method. Yeah, let's talk about that one. We know that not every expense that you incur is totally allowable or chargeable to our program. Let's make the assumption that you've got an electric bill, and that covers your entire building. And you've got 2 classrooms or 3 classrooms, and let's say one classroom is, I'll call it general, the second one is a Head Start program, and the third one is PHLpreK. And let's say that each class has 10, and you get a $90 electric bill. You might want to charge a third, of the bill to PHLpreK. Therefore, $30 is what you would end up putting in your general ledger for that expense. Or in the event that you might say that, well, building or classroom A is larger than classroom B and C, you might want to charge based on square footage, or you might have some other idea. What we'd like you to do is, one, at the top of each tab, we will say allocation method. So if you could please identify what your allocation method is, and also indicate exactly what your calculation was, so that we can now follow it by just picking up the report. Does that make sense to everyone? If we can have a K, that will be fine. Or if we have questions.
Any questions on this allocation method here? I think it'll make more sense as we go through the template too, and yes, maybe generate more questions if you all have it. So I think that's all the slides we have on here. Yes, okay, so let's go into the budget template. I pull that up. All right, here we go. So here is the budget versus actual template. So what you're gonna do first up here is write in your child care center. So ABC childcare. You're gonna write the date of submission. So this is 7/26/22. You're gonna write in your total budget amount. So let's say I looked on my contract, I didn't get any amendments through the years, and my budget amount, my contract amount was 87,500, and that represents 10 slots. So I add that in the top there. You'll see this reminder, don't enter anything where there's yellow highlighting. That's these columns D through G. What you really want to do is enter any your approved line items here in column B, and then C will auto populate. D through G will auto populate based on the tabs that we'll show you in a minute. And then you're going to comment on any variance here in column H. So let's use an example. Let's say I have
let's make 40,000 the salaries.
40,000 here. Okay. So then we want to go to the teacher's salary tab. And then we're going to write in the name of the teacher, Mary Smith, position, lead teacher, total salary, let's put 40,000 here, and then percentage charge to PHLpreK. So let's say there is a class of 20 children, 10 are PHLpreK and 10 are non-PHLpreK. So out of that total, only 50% would be charged to PHLpreK there. So you'll see the total PHLpreK salary auto-populates. Up here in allocation method, you're going to want to write how you got to that. So we got to that by the percentage of children as our method. And then you want to go back to the budget versus. I'm sorry?
Can you go down to the bottom of that tab, so that you can see that this is automatically adding in. So if you had multiple teachers, you can put those in and it will add up. Why don't we put in John Smith too, or yeah, Carrie Lee, she's a wonderful teacher. And we're gonna,
okay, if I had 30,000 and then still 50% in that classroom, and then you'll see that adds on there, and then auto calculates at the bottom. And then if you go back to the front page, you'll see that there was a slight variance there. And these columns auto calculated from that tab that we entered in. And here there is a variance over 10%. So you're going to want to write in a comment here. So
it might be something like we couldn't get
hired teacher assistant.
I was going to say the market is demanding different salaries than we did for.
Okay, so something like that there. Okay, if we want to do maybe another one, if we go down to program related supplies, maybe if we budgeted $1,000 here, please make sure you go to that tab. You can scroll with the corresponding number, it would be number 5. So you can't see it right here. You can't see the tab right here. So you want to scroll over using this little arrow here. Go to program supplies. You want to type in, let's say maybe we had Amazon, and then arts and craft supplies. Let's see, a total paid, maybe there was only $850. And all of that went to, I just bought, arts and crafts from Amazon for that PHLpreK classroom. So we'll put 100% there. Again, you want to put the allocation method. That was using the percentage of children again. You'll see again down here that auto calculates. And then you're going to want to make sure to go back and check it on your budget summary template and go back. We'll look at row 5, that's auto populated. This one is a variance over as well. So you want to put maybe some kind of justification there, like you were under enrolled for September through January. And you put that justification there. And then you'll see, if you want to go, if we go to the bottom, you'll see the total amount here. All of that auto populates. You want to make sure after you, you fill out all the tabs and don't leave any blanks. Make sure if there's nothing there that you'll put a 0 as well. So if you don't have any family and community partnerships, you'll put a 0 in there and complete the tab and put the 0 in as well. When you're finished with all those tabs, you're going to want to make sure that this total budget amount that you have in the contract, you get from the contract, matches this total bottom amount of all of your line items. And after you're done with that, you want to make sure you put a signature and a date on the tab. Ken, is there anything else you want to say here?
No, again, I'm glad you pointed out that you ensure that the detail that's in column B agrees with the grand total that you're seeing in B6. So make sure that everything in your budget that comes from your contract is listed in B9 through, I don't know what the last number is in there. And as you can see there in column C, it's telling you what percentage each line is of your total budget. And just be very, again, you're not going to, would you please try to type something in one of the yellow areas, Carrie?
Sure.
And you'll see what happens. So in case you guys try this, you have not broken the worksheet. This is to make sure that we don't break the worksheet actually.
Okay, we do have some questions in, so I can read those. So first, we have the allocation is fine, but the budget template doesn't allow me to enter specific amounts beyond line 7. The other cells or columns are general. I cannot add specific info for space, rent, PD, etc.
Say that again. Can they be specific as to where they're seeing that problem?
Can't be beyond line 7. Is that it? Yeah, is that a specific tab that you're seeing? You're on, Tanisha? Okay, well, why don't we wait? We'll have, if she can fill out more information, we can go to another question. What if the percentage changes mid-year?
I don't understand the question.
So if your allocation percentage changes mid-year, do you mean, Christine? So if maybe you had a certain amount of children in the beginning of the year, and maybe you had a contract amendment, and you had additional children.
Then.
So yes, she said yes. And for teacher salary.
Reflect the percentage at the point of the transaction. So if at the time you did that transaction, you allocated X percent, that's what you should stick with for the entire year. But the next expense is different. So if you get more kids, no, I'm sorry. I'm seeing what she's saying. Let me make sure I'm understanding here. So she's saying that as you get more kids, that's going to impact the percentage on the allocation.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. Just put in whatever that number is for that expense. You can go back and backfit it because the actual cost is not going to change. The only thing that's going to change is the allocation percentage. And as long as you have indicated what your steps were and what the factors were at the time of the transaction, you can write it on the invoice, or you can actually annotate it in the tab. Then we can always go back and recreate the conditions that were in effect when you had that expense.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So Christine says okay. And someone wanted me to go back to the teacher's salary tab. I don't know if there was something specific, Angela, if you wanted us to point out here. Well, there's another question about staff. So another one there's one from Poonam. How about the time the staff member spends in the classroom? So that is going to be are you asking if that could be used as the allocation method?
I'm waiting to hear.
Yeah, sorry, we're waiting to hear from responses from folks. Yeah, Poonam's asking if that can be the allocation method as time spent in the class, that's time a staff member spends in the classroom.
That is, yes.
Their portion of it. Yeah.
Yes, it can. Remember, you are in control of what of how you allocate costs. You know, it just has to be reasonable, justifiable, and verifiable. So if we know, or if you know that, that a more accurate way of allocating time is that, a teacher is going to be in classroom A for 2 hours of the day, and they're going to be in classroom B for the other 6. That's fine. Whatever works for you, just make sure that you document it and that you indicate in your general ledger that that's how you got there, in your description, in your general ledger.
So someone is asking if you have a general ledger template.
I'm going to ask a question for them. What accounting system are they using?
Okay, waiting on a response here. So are you saying, Ken, that you should be able to generate the general ledger from their software that they use? That
Exactly.
should be how they do it?
Yeah. If you're using QuickBooks, which is what I'm seeing a lot of the agencies are using QuickBooks. Bigger agencies have more sophisticated systems, but QuickBooks allows you to put all this kind of detail directly into your description for your for each transaction.
So what if they don't have software and they just have their bank statements?
If they just have their bank do it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't understand that, and at some level, it still has to get into your general ledger. Because if you don't have a general ledger, you don't have books, then you have a challenge, because having an acceptable accounting software package is a condition that you have to have, that's stated in your contract.
Okay, let's go on to more. Tanisha, I will send you an updated or a template. I think maybe there's an issue with the one that you're using. We'll connect after. I'll make sure to get something to you. Let's see. If you have an amendment, you do need to use that updated amendment amount as your total budget amount, and the line items within that equaling up to that total of the amendment. I'm not sure if that answers your question, Alice, or if you have more to add to that. Just type it in. So when is the reporting due? We will also get to that too. It is going to be due August 31st, and we'll have some information at the end when we get through all the questions about that. Let me see. No silly questions. One of these questions is a new center for PHLpreK FY23. They do not do non-PHLpreK staff go in teacher salary tab if they are not a PHL staff member, but in a joint classroom. So she's asking if non-PHLpreK staff need to be entered on these tabs as well.
No, if you're not charging Philly Pre-K for the expense, then you shouldn't be listing it in the tab.
Even if they're in that joint class.
They might be in that classroom, and that should go into your consideration for how you're making your allocation. Because what comes to my mind is, why are they in the class if they're not part of Philly Pre-K? Now, if you're commingling, say, Philly Pre-K kids and Head Start kids all in the same classroom, that will then kind of drive what your allocation method is. But if you can clearly identify that you hired Mary Sue Stiles to teach Head Start kids that are in a commingled class, fine, you can now say, we're not going to talk to Mary Sue, but we will talk to teacher Barney, who is dealing with Philly Pre-K kids as the correct expense.
Okay, great. So Layla is asking, can we go back to where you write the specific name of the expense? So the example that we did was on, where was it? Program supplies, tab 5. We wrote in the vendor name, we wrote in a description, and then also wrote in the total paid from July through June. And then the percentage charge to PHLpreK.
Right.
Okay, let's go on. What happens if you did not receive your grant amount because you did not fill all your slots? So example, you awarded $105,000, only received $52,000. What do I base the expense on? Is it the $52,000 that you actually got paid?
Say that again, because I'm trying to.
So if you got a total budget amount and then you didn't use that total contract amount, then do you use what?
That's going to create a variance, and that more than likely that's going to create a variance of more than 10%, and that's going to drive your description or comment that goes in.
And so, there you would write in some justification around that you were under enrolled for the year, and that's why there was an over 10% variance.
Correct.
Salaries, someone had a comment that their salaries were more than budgeted. Again, that's when, if there's a variance over or under 10%, you really want to write in that justification. And you know, the justification that we used here is an example of what you're just talking about, as in the market demanded higher salaries than you budgeted for initially. So that's an example of some kind of justification that you could use. So someone is also asking, oh, I'm sorry, Ken, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I just wanted to take a quick moment to say, you know, specific people are asking questions, but I'm hoping that the answers that we're giving are adequately informative to everybody. Are people understanding what we're saying? Is the stuff clear, or is it about as clear as mud to everybody? So I guess it's a chance for everybody to click K or I need help.
Okay, and while they're doing that, we can go on to, we do have a few more questions. So this is someone's asking about, is the general ledger also the balance sheet? In
QuickBooks, that is how the general ledger is usually accessed. However, the other way to get it is to go into reports, and then there's usually a drop down for general ledger.
So someone is asking if they need to share salaries using their full names. I think this should be reconsidered. I'm unsure if they're okay with me sharing this with a third party. So you can use initials if you'd like. I don't think we're specific about needing full names there.
Just so that I understand the privacy issue there. Just understanding that in the event of a review, we need to be able to go back and say, you were talking about that person. So if you want to give them a code, you want to give their initials, that's fine. It's just so we can get back to that person. Say at that point in time, this is who you were referring to. By the way, that was a really good question.
Okay. Someone is asking about their amendment. I can follow up with you too, Alice. If you can put your email in the questioner chat. Someone is asking if they need to send supporting documents with the report.
Not at this time. If there's a question, then we will ask for the supporting documents then. But that's a great question because it tells me that you understand the relationship between entries in your general ledgers and the entries in the report and being able to support that information in the long run. For those who don't know, in your contract, it does indicate that you're supposed to keep all your supporting documents for at least 5 years after the close of the contract.
So I think some people are getting a little confused with the word amendment. So and the justification or variance needed. So we're talking about like the amendment as in your contract amendment. So you got a contract amount at the beginning of the year, and then maybe you got an increased number of slots, so then you got a contract amendment. So you use that contract amendment amount in your total budget amount and to use that to break down your line items. Nobody needs to apply or ask for an amendment if they have a variance in their line items that's over or under 10%. You're just going to need to make sure you write that justification in the column here, this H column. Okay. So someone is saying pre-K counts requires a budget revision, or if we did not spend the granted the way, oh, okay. So they're just saying, yeah, maybe pre-K counts does it a little differently, that providers need to submit an amendment if it wasn't originally budgeted. So yeah, we're just asking you to write in that justification if there was a variance, and then we'll follow up with any questions on that. Okay. I think that's all the questions we might have here. So are you all feeling okay about being able to provide the information on the tabs based on your general ledgers? If I can see if you want to put in the chat, if you have any questions, or typing in the any more questions in the question box.
Is now a good time to say who they should direct questions to?
Yes, I can put in, let's see, we can finish up also the PowerPoint on these next steps. Let's see. Here are next steps. You can get started right now. Please make sure you have the template. I can actually get to, anybody wants to hold on after, I can get a link to the template to put up here. If you need any assistance on this template, contact Spark. Here's the number here, the number and email. You want to submit your budget versus actual template report to the PHLpreK inbox by August 31st. It's going to be forwarded to your provider service specialist, and they'll conduct any follow-up if needed. And I think that's all we have for the training. Let's see if there are any questions. Yes, we will have a copy of the recording in the weekly newsletter along with the slides. We'll also make sure folks have the right templates as well. We can make a link there in the newsletter to be able to provide any updated templates. Are there any other questions? Does everybody feel okay about this? Any other questions or any comments about any kind of challenges people see that they might foresee that they would have in putting this together? Yes, you can still type in any questions in the chat box. Feel free to. Okay, and while we wait for any more questions coming in, I will also get to the link.
I gotta say, I'm very impressed by the quality of questions that were in this session.
And let me get to, I'm going to actually put the files as handouts in this section. Let's see here. Oh, there's an error occurred in updating that file. I guess I won't be putting it in the handouts. Okay, well, we will make sure the links are in the weekly newsletter to be able to get to the templates if anybody needs an updated template and can't find it in their email notification that they were sent. If not, please, you can reach out to the PHLpreK inbox if you want to start earlier than that. It'll be sent out on Friday, but if you do want it earlier, then please feel free to reach out to the PHLpreK inbox and we'll get it to you. So there's one more question here. If I'm using class tracking in QuickBooks that shows how much costs are allocated to pre-K, do I still need to write the total cost on the detailed tab of the report, or can I just enter the pre-K portion?
So let me make sure I'm understanding. So everything that you would have listed there would be exactly what you already allocated to pre-K, correct?
I'm waiting for a response.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the general ledger shows the pre-K allocations.
Okay, and does that show how you did the original allocation?
No.
Okay, I'm going to go back. What was her original question?
So she's using QuickBooks that shows how much costs are allocated to pre-K. Do I still need to write the total cost on the detail tab of the report, or can I just enter the pre-K portion?
Just enter the pre-K portion. She gets a little tricky in here. Enter in the tab the cost, make it 100%, and then email us that report. Because if there's a review done, we will use that to get back to because you're going to probably need that to find any backup documents. So actually did such a good job that we're just having to run an extra piece of documentation along the way. But it sounds like we're going to be able to walk through her accounting system very, very easily. Does that make sense?
She says, okay, thank you.
Somebody who actually understands, and sounds like they're using QuickBooks as it was designed to be used.
So I think, Alice, you might be having trouble with your entry. So how about we follow up directly and see if we can figure that out. I have your email that you put in the chat box. Okay, I think those are all the questions that we have. So with that, I think we're gonna conclude our session here.
I'm just making sure everybody knows who to go to in the event that they have other questions after we hang up. Is that correct?
So it's right here, just in case you need it. And then we will have the slides and the recording in the newsletter that comes out on Friday, along with the links to the budget templates.
Outstanding.
Great. All right.
Carrie and Ken.
Oh, yes.
Carrie and Ken, hi. I just want to clarify the difference between questions and assistance because I know we want the providers to go to Spark if they need support with completing the report. But if they have general questions about the actual report itself, it should be directed to PHLpreK at phmc.org.
Great. Thanks, Joy.
I'm because that was the kind of thing I was trying to get at, and that's fine. Just making sure I know what to look for in my inbox when emails come.
All right. Thanks all. Thanks for joining. Have a great day.